to order this being of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health Townhouse Auditorium, March 21st, 2022 at 6:04 p.m. This meeting is being conducted in person and remotely using video conferencing technology as approved by the governor. Extensions of July 15th, 2022. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is anyone recording the meeting other than ourselves? Seeing none. Do we have any viewers? Just Joe B. Big Joe B. All right, first item on the agenda is the minutes from February 28th, 2022.
I think there was some maybe confusion at the last sentence there. Well, capital lease makes sense, 23,000 HVAC.
I wasn't.
And I think the 23,000 was Kevin's number if we were leaving the elevator assessment in there as well. And he had made the statement that it would drop considerably by taking out that elevator part. I think
Well, give me some
either
language.
drop the whole thing or drop the money. The money leads to, I think, a bit of confusion if it's not put in the proper context.
And the percentage of eligible residents fully vaccinated is at 75.5%. The whole county story.
Joe B.
I don't know, I feel like that was, shouldn't be clarification there, I mean, that was what the original assessment was, right?
Right, but it'll be clarification that that was including the, and our conversation was, look, we're looking for a number that does not have. We talked about splitting in two phases. Let's get an update on the current assessment. Then we'll talk about, okay, ADA as part of that grant application. And that's why the number was gonna be much different than 23,000. And adding in the HVAC part, as you said, the original report, that's what needed to be added to it, not, let's look at accessibility per se. I just think clarification.
Clarification that they were supposed to come back with a revised estimate without,
Well, the 23,000 was an estimate for updating, not adding HVAC, but doing an elevator assessment as well. Whereas the board was looking for an update plus HVAC, which would bring a different number.
But the HVAC is outside of mechanicals and everything else, right?
Now, HVAC is mechanicals and stuff like that.
But
That's why I would add that number.
But that's not electric, that's not plumbing, HVAC?
Well, I mean, that's HVAC, et cetera, right? So you're right.
Oh, but I thought, what did he say, like
Wait, what?
3,000?
Yeah, yeah, then the 2750, yeah.
you're doing it first.
What does he have? What is he?
I got January 31st minutes.
I got February 28th.
I bet they were in the old.
All right, I'll share.
I read it.
I wonder what you're talking about. I don't see that.
That blank look.
Seen that look before.
Okay, I would suggest, can you just maybe work with Bob and come up with a little different language at the
Yeah,
end
of
of that?
course.
If we pass these down till next time.
All right, we're gonna hold this next time?
Yes.
Okay.
We're actually, I recommend, actually, Bob and Pam, we're pretty up to date on.
Yeah,
this.
we are, we are.
Good.
Well, we try.
You guys are, all right. I'm up.
Now we got your other boards and committees to work
You're a
on.
month behind down, but it's still.
Okay, so we're gonna do those next week.
Okay.
Highway superintendent, highway union contracts, any,
If you have a copy of the updated union contract, I'll show you where we've made changes. Page 4 would be the first change. And this was actually communicated to us by the head of the union, Article 2. Article 2.10, union membership is voluntary. apparently there may be someone over there who wanted to have that clause.
Really,
That's what-
they don't have the,
Well, there's a clause in there about unions and union dues,
Right.
but I
Right.
don't think there's anything about the union participation being voluntary.
Well, it is,
I don't know.
it's illegal to have a closed shop, meaning everybody who is, well, closed shop is everybody who is hired has to be a member. Union shop is that everyone once hired has to join. So it's not a union shop. It's an open shop with, I think, nearly everybody. There might be one who doesn't belong to the union.
So does that mean if they don't belong to the union, they don't benefit from any of the unions?
No, they do benefit.
Well, how do you
They
set the
can't-
rates and stuff like that if they're not part of the union, how are they bound by the union contract?
They're not.
Right.
They don't pay union dues, so therefore they're not.
Well, they are bound by it because the union is certified to represent the employees. So they are bound by state law to observe the contract. Most unions will say, they'll ask for a clause which says, if you're not a member and we give you some kind of special service, we're going to charge you for it. For example, if we handle a grievance for you and you're not a member, you get charged, but that's not in here, and we didn't discuss that in negotiations.
The way I'm trying to remember back my union days. And I remember people having the option to opt out, but they would have to pay back dues for all the years that they were employed if they needed something. So
Oh, yeah, that's
that'd be substantial. If
a pretty strong clause, yes.
But I don't know if that's how this union operates or.
Well,
there needs to be more
If you look at
clarification.
the language in the police contract, it says that union is responsible for representing the interest of all policemen, whether they're union or non-union
Right.
members. And that's what you're referring to. that
Right.
This is binding upon anyone,
Right.
I guess it's their choice whether or not they want to pay dues.
Mhm.
And if they don't get the benefits, as Craig said, of any representation the union would do on their behalf.
Then they'd also, would they still get yearly raises? Because we negotiated with the union for raises and salaries.
yeah, because
Benefits.
Article 1 says their sole exclusive agent for the purpose of establishing salvages, wages, hours, and other conditions for employment for all the town Hampton Highway Department employees.
I think it's if you had to defend, if they had to be
Right, if
defended.
they may not represent them in a
Grievance or
grievance or something like that.
Right.
Next change, page 11, we have the new language for sick leave and sick leave buyback. It's 1 day a month, which is standard with the handbook. And then the buyback provision is 75. And then Article 12, which is on page 12. That's health and welfare. I updated that language in number 12.30. The share of the health insurance premium that the town will pick up. So it was 50-50 and then so forth. One of the issues I think that I just mentioned, once someone retires, if they retire in fiscal 23, the town picks up 70%. Then comes 24, fiscal 24. Do they stay at 70? Or do they, like the rest of the town, enjoy a 75% premium benefit? I assume that we have a uniform situation across the board, that when we got to 70, when we got to fiscal 2024, that everyone
Gets 75.
would get 75. So that's what the language here, that's what the language says. I changed it. Let's see.
So what do we do on the standby?
I'll get, yeah, I'm coming right up on that. Before we get to that, Article 19, holidays, I added Juneteenth.
Bob,
Yes,
can we go back to 10? I'm not really sure that we talked about it before, but 10-60. On page 11.
okay.
Is that the sense of the board that the sick day thing, the way it's worded here, it seems like it's a continuous avenue for they can buy back. If you separate out the first line from the second line, you know, the retirement, whatever, that's pretty straightforward, 75% buyback. The second part there, after they hit 50 days, they can buy back, buy back, buy back, buy back. It seems like it's just every year they can buy back days. So they put their sick, you know what I mean? It's-
Put 50 in the bank and then you buy back every year.
Right. And if we're not allowing them to go back to, do we allow them to cash, do sick days have cash value? Normally you say no, you put them in the bank, but then they attain cash value that way. It seems like a little
When you're over,
end
when
around to
you're over
make cash
50
value
days,
out of
yeah.
sick days.
When you're over 50 days.
Yeah. I go back to what we did with the chief that time where we capped it. If you did a thing, it pulled back your maximum.
So nothing in there changed though from the old contract.
No, I'm just looking at,
No, nothing has changed.
But it doesn't make sense,
that's what I'm doing.
because it says upon an employee's retirement.
It's almost like it's two different things there. you know
So
what I
the
mean?
person's retiring from the Hampton County Retirement System. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And under the three circumstances, the employee or the case of death and spouse shall receive a lump sum of 75% accumulated sick day. So when he retires, he gets 75%, or his spouse or,
And the next one should
Significant
almost
other.
be 10-6.
Employees continuing in service.
okay, but how are you
It has nothing
continuing
to
in
do with
service?
the
Yeah,
line before.
otherwise I'd be an active employee, right?
He's not retired though.
It has nothing to do with the line before, that's what I'm saying. It's
Well,
like these
okay,
two things
yeah,
are
yeah.
stuffed together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, actually, that's not right.
Well, you want me to just make another paragraph from that? Because I didn't change anything there other than
That's
the
from the
number.
old, that's
Yeah.
from the old contract.
That's the old
It's-
contract, yeah.
Yeah, I would just make another paragraph, like
All right.
10.61.
6.5, 6.2, whatever, yeah.
All right, what else you got?
Okay. And over on holidays, I added Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Personal days. I know we had the discussion of 5 or 6. It's currently 5.
I think
Then we talked a while about keeping it standard with the handbook, and then
I think we kept the sick the same and gave them
Gave
six.
them minutes.
gave another person.
That way it's
That's what I
one for 2
thought.
months. to pay the
Okay,
back.
well, I put in, actually late this afternoon, Pam came over with her notes, and then she found in the yellow envelope the notes that I had taken, so it is 6.
Paragraph 2 is wrong.
It is 6.
Yeah, second one we did.
The paragraph 2 is wrong.
Yeah.
Probably should change that 5 to 6 in paragraph 2.
Paragraph,
Yeah, right here, it still says until 5
No
days.
employees.
oh,
Yeah.
all right. And I don't know if we have any other changes.
Yeah, paragraph 3.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, we did the health insurance update, and that would be Article 28, and I did update on the standby as well.
Yeah, and can you fix paragraph?
And I updated wages.
And 21.
Yeah, 21 paragraph 3. Just fix the whole tense thing is not the way the contract should be.
If you leave your
If you, you know.
personal days, third paragraph.
Third paragraph, okay.
The tense in the context. of what we're- right.
Change that to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand your intent, but make it more formalized like the contract language. please.
Article 26, I updated the wages. I got the current wage from the treasurer to make sure that we were at the right starting point. Then I put those increases in, and then I put the next paragraph in, if the rate of inflation, that is to say the CPI, Greater Springfield Metropolitan Statistical Area, exceeds 3% in year 2 and 3, there's a reopener.
Okay,
July
we
1st.
need to put the February's first date in
February
there.
1st.
February 1st.
Also, and this has happened in the past, and Bob, I don't know how you want to handle it. The 5% thing, the way it's worded right in there is kind of confusing. I think in the past, we've written things, the 5%, almost want to say, 5% represents the increase over the prior number. You know, what I mean, in the table here, where's that 5%?
Yeah. Prior number is
That's what I'm saying.
2784.
Oh, I know that, but I'm
Yeah.
like, like below, these numbers reflect
Okay,
a 5, 2.5, 2.5, or something like that, rather than putting it in
all right.
I mean,
Clarify
the
that.
following wage scale shall be column 3, which represent a 5, 2.5, 2.5 over the prior contract. Then your language about, we will review.
Retirement health insurance policy, there's nothing new there. I just updated the numbers. Also, in the last contract, flip over to the last page. You'll see that in the second sentence, town employees who retire shall not commence until such an eligible individual has attained the age of 62. In the last contract, that number was moved from 55 to 62. So just wanted to point that out.
Can we go back to 13.4 for standby? I think the last two sentences need to be swapped around. Each member of the department shall be placed on standby. It should say 150 for the first standby pay.
You're on page 13.
Yeah, and then if they're not called in and they're on standby, it goes up to 200. It's a little backwards, I think.
Yeah, that my understanding of what you decided was that the standby would remain at 150
Right.
if they were called in. If they were called in,
Right. I just
if
think
not called in, it goes to.
I think the sentences should be reversed, so that way you set your standby at 150, and then you give them the additional,
Okay.
if they're not called in.
Yeah, it makes more sense that way. doesn't
Yeah.
it? There's the exception, shall be the second.
Oh, okay, I
So
got it.
so
Yeah.
the last sentence should be before the sentence before it, just so it's flows in order, so it sets the exception of what standby is,
Mhm.
and then sets the benefit of not of accruing more if they're not called in, maybe,
Right.
And take out the, it says here, each member of the department is placed on standby, he will receive, change that to the employee will receive.
Oh, the employee. Okay. I struggled with that a little bit. We have only males in the department, but probably ought to make it a little more neutral language.
You never know.
Hmm?
You
You never know.
No, I see it in East Long Meadow.
And is this for full-time
Yeah.
employees? Do the reserves, do they get standby pay? The reserves? Like if he's got, the part-timers or whoever else, the auxiliary,
Those like private contractors, aren't they?
they don't get reserve
They
pay.
just get, yeah.
So should I say full-time employee?
Well, the full-time, it's, people cover that in
That's
contract.
true. I don't know if anybody, if they call them independent guys, if they're considered an employee at that point. No.
All right,
So
and they've approved all this?
they have it.
They have.
So they have
Yes.
approved it.
So we can do one of two things. We can wait till they sign. And you can sign next week, which is probably the better way to do it. And in the meantime, I'll just make the adjustments.
What about the highway superintendent? We're at a,
Well, he had
Impasse.
said to me last week that he wanted one more appearance before the board to talk about that phrase that Craig suggested, having to do with health insurance with retirement, rather than count 20 years, count in government service rather than in the service of the town. And then he came in today and said, no, he said, he doesn't want to come before you, but is still interested in having that phrase. So I think it's a matter of you saying yes or no, and then we're done. In other words, you're going to be able to count time that he worked in East Long Meadow towards the
The only
20.
thing I could say is this.
He knows you don't want to change the 20. I mean, and I think he understands why you can't change the 20-year guideline. Right?
I thought there was discussion about an age at which you could retire,
Yeah, we had mentioned that too.
which I think doesn't.
We did not have further conversation about that.
Well,
If I remember, it was
I'd be interested in looking more into this. For instance, if a person works for 18 years in East Long Meadow, and he works, let's say he's close to 65, he works 18 years in East Long Meadow, and he works 4 years here. Now he's got 22 years left. He's 65 years old. He's eligible to retire. You tell me he gets no insurance? Someone must provide it. There must be some law that says when you retire, you.
And that's not fair either, right?
Well, when he's 65, he goes to Medicare.
Yeah, okay.
Then
but
Right,
then-
but you don't have
The
the
town
option
would
of
cover
a
the
town
Medicare
plan.
supplement. Yeah.
Yeah, but which town will cover it?
I could say something that, I seem to recall something several years back about, if someone worked for several different communities, that the cost of the insurance or whatever is divided by the communities. So if you retired from Hampton, Hampton pays what they're reimbursed by East Long Meadow or whatever, and I could be mistaken, but that would probably be a question for Dick. He might-
Isn't that what
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I was just
Yeah,
thinking,
if I'm not
you know,
mistaken, I think that was how it worked.
And that would bear into your thing, okay, look at your cumulative municipal work.
Yeah.
If there's a division of coverage, then that's.
I think we said something about minimum age too.
Also, I guess,
Well,
one of the
the
reasons
minimum-
why this
minimum-
came up is that you're vested in East Long Meadow in 10 years. That's how we.
The other thing I think I mentioned, if I recall last time, was that he was still asking for the 10 years. And I believe I mentioned, even at the end of this contract,
had
you're
9
only at
years.
9.
Yeah.
So why aren't we passing this to the next discussion? And I thought we had left it there.
It
Recall
seems
that?
reasonable because no
Right.
matter what we do, we want to protect this contract. anyway.
Exactly right.
Right.
So,
as far as the minimum age, it's 55.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
you don't get anything. I mean,
No.
you know,
No.
even if you got 20 years, you only get 1.5%,
You're right.
15%.
The retirement system is really tilted to encourage employees to work until
Retirement.
the normal
Until you retire.
32 years.
Until you retire, then 6 weeks later you die, and you save the money.
So morbid, Jack.
very well. I would kick that back to him saying, I thought the end of the discussion was,
That's
hey,
why it's
bring
playing
it
that
up next
way.
time because it's not even relevant to this contract.
It's not, no.
Then we're done.
Yeah, let's do the no for now, and we're gonna,
Okay.
we're gonna look at all these other issues.
Okay.
Yeah, like you said, only because it doesn't affect this contract.
No.
It's not because we're.
So you're gonna bring that back next week too?
I'll bring that back.
Get this done. Records access officer. Are you,
Well,
where are we there?
yeah, if Eva could come to the table so we could pick up the audio, please.
You don't think I'm loud enough?
No,
Okay.
We have a
people
spotlight.
who sit
too,
back
but-
there really.
You want to-
People say you can't hear.
Okay, the records access administrator position is something that was approved for fiscal 18. It's not something new. The issue I have with it is that when we did the Collins Institute field where they reevaluated these positions, I didn't even think to submit anything for it because there was nobody in the position at the time. All I really was looking for was what grade are we on this one? It was comparable to the assistant clerk and assistant collector before, which was a 7. They are now a 4. I'm assuming that this position, if we're keeping it in line, should be a grade 4. So all we really wanted to know was, where do we stand on the position on this? Not that
Are you hiring somebody or you just want to get a grade?
I want to get a grade so I can get a pay rate, so I can try to find somebody to fill a position.
Do you think 10 hours is enough?
Initially, for the records access officer, I was allowing 2 hours a week. Sometimes that's more than enough, sometimes it's nowhere near enough. But the records access administrator, reason I did that is because I wanted time to build those things into the files. I wanted somebody to be, but if we
To
give
build
it,
like a guide and all that kind of stuff.
Someone who can create
Procedure.
programs.
Yeah, yeah.
someone who can scan everything and create programs, so that if we run a report, we can just pull the information in off the system, or go in and find a document that we can just print from there or whatever. And it's something that originally, that was Mo Gray was hired for the position. And he had started it there, but then when Elaine left, rather unexpectedly, I needed someone to fill that in like in a
Yeah.
hurry. He'd been helping us out there. So he kind of was thrown into that. He migrated from one to the
So
other.
what's his title then? Just-
Right now, assistant town clerk, but he was the records access
He was.
administrator, and he was creating files, and he was on, creating, he would take the data we have and put it into a format that we could generate reports and things. So he was working on that at the time. And that's really what I'd like to get back to. I'll tell you, not that that would have been quite so convenient with our last request, because so much of it had to come from external sources for me. But having someone that could have dedicated the time for that really would have saved me a lot.
So is this something Mo would pick up again with extra hours, or are you looking for an
I
additional
don't
body?
think that he would, and I might give him the option of if he'd rather go back to doing that, try to find someone for clerk, but right now, I would just like to get someone available for the position, even if they don't want to work 10 hours right now. It's, if they can give me time to start, again, creating files that we need, scanning things into the system, being able to create programs.
Yeah, I'd like the person also to be able to talk to the other boards and make like a booklet or something saying, or, you know, these are the records we have available. If you want records about, I don't know, zoning, you go to planning board. If you want records about the wetland, you go to the conservation commission. This is what they have in, that they.
We can't
But if it's an online searchable thing, that's even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So.
We can't really do that. We can say, yep, I'll get it for you. And as the records access administrator, he would go to the boards or departments.
Yeah.
But he's the funnel. He's what things filter through.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So,
but I'm saying, I'd like to have something for the public so they could say, okay, this is where I'm gonna get it eventually.
No,
but again, the public gets it through the records access
Yeah.
administrator, not directly from the departments. That ultimately, that's where it's gonna come from.
But a lot of the departments, like the planning board, I mean, someone could just walk in there now and say, I want to see the plans for.
Oh, absolutely.
Highland
They can do
Circle
that. They can do
and-
that with any department. But a lot of our requests come via email. Some of them are very extensive. A lot of it is when there's a presidential election particularly, but even state elections, we get a lot of requests for information with regard to elections. And if I have someone in that position, I want to make it worthwhile that they're going to learn the position.
Mhm.
I don't want to have to train someone and have them leave. It's kind of in depth. If I do that, there's no point in having anyone. I like to have someone in the position that will understand it and not be afraid to do the work involved.
Will someone work 10 hours?
You'd be surprised. I mean, there are mothers who just want a few hours out with the,
Yeah. Right. And the hours
yeah.
are right at the times at school.
and the hours would be kind of
Drop 'em off the
flexible.
farm.
Yeah, there are retired,
Did you put
there are
something-
retired pharmacists who wouldn't mind probably picking up a few hours
Yeah, really.
here and there.
Is this in your budget that you submitted to? the
It
budget,
is.
or-
And that's what brought this about, is because I had not requested an increase.
Mhm.
I was paying at $15 an hour. Well, now that step in grade, if it's comparable to the others, it would be at grade 4, step 1, which is like $23 an hour. I don't have that in the budget. I was putting it in there, but I can understand where advisory said a lot of money. And I said, yeah, it is, but I was remiss when I didn't go through Collins last year. That was my mistake. I just never even gave it a thought until I was going over the budgets and thought,
Right.
oh, no,
But it wasn't an active position. at that
Right.
at the time it was not.
So your recommendation, you think grade 4, step 1?
I think that would keep it in line with what it had been originally approved for.
Mhm.
And I had gone through personnel at the time, and then again, when we had a prior town administrator, I discussed it with
Mhm.
both her, and she had someone who was assisting at the time who had been involved in personnel, and they were in agreement to all of that. So that was really, my focus wasn't getting a whole new position, it was just getting a grade besides the
A
position
vacant
that we have
position
currently.
Wasn't currently evaluated.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it was,
How would we have to go about grading that? Would that have to go through advisory? We
Well,
could just
well,
assign that.
actually, I was just gonna say, we could go through advisory, again, I can give you the original, originally, again, it was approved for, fiscal 18. It was approved for 7-1. I have the information from the Collins Institute that says these guys who were also a grade 7 are now a grade 4. So I would think that it would be a 4 comparable. Obviously, it would be step 1 because there's nobody in there right now.
Mhm.
So going by what I've been provided already, it would be grade 4, step 1 at whatever we have on our new chart.
You know, certainly working with the advisory committee is a good idea. But with the Collins report, we've established that anyone wanting to revise their grade or to be upgraded has to come to the selectmen.
And
The
that's why I'm
selectmen
here.
control the grade structure.
And this isn't really a revision. It's
Well,
just,
yeah, but I mean,
It's- well, it's not revision. It's just moving into the new system. It's taking the information from our old system and putting it in where it belongs with the new system. That's what we've done with everyone else. That's all I'm asking for here.
What
And
hap-
I've discussed it with advisory.
Right. yeah, I understand, but the decision, the vote to establish this position in the grade structure would be a vote of the Board of Selectmen.
I'm assuming, well,
Bob, do
Or-
we have a, do you
or
have a list
personnel.
of, do you have a list of all the grades and steps for
Yes.
different positions in
Yes.
town? Like a one chart?
Yes,
Okay, great.
like that. That's just the front page because it's just showing where the assistant clerk and collector are. And because again, this was comparable, want to know what the money is here? I've got one of those too.
2351.
Again, because I have a copy of the job description.
2351.
You want one of those too? I've got all of these. Do you want that? That's the job description.
Yeah.
And there's a little more to this in records access officer, because again, I don't want just someone who can find the records and provide them for me. I want someone who can build them into the system. And
Would they fall in line with the assistant town clerk?
well, they were a comparable position with assistant clerk and assistant project treasurer before that. It was deemed to be the same step. I'm sorry, the same grade at the time.
Right, but you said it was a 7 before.
It was a
Oh,
7
And
before, and
everybody else
those are now
was a 7
4s.
has been transitioned to 4.
To a 4,
So there's
correct.
no reason this shouldn't be as well if it was.
Well, that's the way I was looking at it, and I
That
was,
makes
as I
sense.
say, I was remiss in that I didn't send that to Collins, and it didn't even occur to me until I
What
went out.
happened?
I don't think this is up to date, because I know we changed a couple of these, a month or so ago.
No, and those, it's only because the other ones were upgraded. And I'm not looking to upgrade anything, I'm
Right.
looking to,
Well,
make that-
you make a good case. If you're saying everyone else who was a 7 before went to a 4,
And they have experience.
It's a solid-
New spot.
yeah, and it's, I mean, it's just a grade, because obviously the step is step
and
1.
obviously it sounds like this person has to liaise with every other board.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
what we're trying to, as Don said, it'd be good to have one common repository where now this stuff
Which is
all
one,
comes
and
together, right?
that's the idea behind the records access officer.
You said this
And
was
again,
funded in 2018. What happened after that? Why do we stop filling positions? Did the person
Because
leave or-
at the time, the town clerk, assistant town clerk left kind of unexpectedly, well, it was in 19 actually. She left kind of unexpectedly, and because we needed to fill that position, the town clerk is a busy office.
You just never backfilled it after that?
So I never filled it after. I've had people doing stuff there. I've had someone who's gone through and tried to take all the information from town meetings and give me like a recap on that, so that if I need to look up something, I can go through that file and say, oh, wait, here we go. And I've actually had to use that, as a matter of fact, for a records request more recently. But it makes it a lot easier to find things if we have
Would
something.
this person also be responsible for updating the website with town meeting information?
No, it's an entirely different thing,
Would be
and I can put them on my own site, but
Yeah.
not on the homepage. That's not something I have access to. Meetings or whatever. I can provide the information to you, and I don't know who you can or cannot do that.
You could provide it to me and I
Yeah.
can put it on.
here we are, grade 4. I just put up grade 4, step 1 is 2238.
Right, that's what it was, grade 4, step 1.
Yeah, that's just one.
And that was what I just provided to John as well. And if I'm not mistaken, that was upgraded by Dick, that one. But,
Yeah, I think you've got, that's FY 22, I think you have up there, Bob.
Yeah.
She's giving us the 23.
He's given us a 23.
It's the 23.
Yeah.
and that's what I was using. I based my budget on grade 4, step 1.
Mhm.
When I realized my oversight, and again, when I discussed it with advisory, they thought, God, that's a big jump, and I said, yes, it is. The other classifications of assistant clerk and assistant collector also got significant increases, but it wasn't all in one big leap. So it's much more conspicuous, and that's why they thought I should have the,
So it's 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
52 weeks a year,
uh-huh.
$12,255.
That's probably what I had there. I don't have my budget sheet. I apologize for that.
$12,225.
Right now I can have down for 78 or whatever, because I had put that increase through. Where other people were getting those interim increases because of the reevaluation, it didn't happen for this one.
What's your pleasure?
I'm sorry.
What? Well, this-
No, but- Oh, that's the old one.
That's 2018.
I think the town clerk makes a compelling case
Can't go back.
for an existing position. That because it was vacant, was not properly reviewed by Colin. And the case that all the other positions at that grade were carried into this number, to me, seems justified to classify it as a 4-1.
What's your motion?
Motion.
Motion to approve a request to grade the records officer per the description as a grade 4, step 1.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is it.
Thank you,
Wow.
gentlemen.
Good work.
Oh, I do that. Well, don't stop me there. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the employees handbook. Are we all set on that thing?
Ever?
Well,
I miss
78
it, Justin.
pages. I'm
You
not
give it
sure,
in pencil.
I'm not sure how many are going to read it, but
Yeah.
it does have the rules that everyone has agreed to, we've agreed to. Including the change in the health insurance, including the change whereby the town will pay a percentage of whatever plan the employee chooses, as opposed to a percentage of the most expensive plan.
Motion to approve employee handbook. Any other questions? Comments?
Make a motion to approve the employee handbook as presented by Bob with the changes as.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, joining with other towns to recover Hamilton County Regional Retirement Board money. So this is, what this is all about is, we'll do a little review here.
Get a PowerPoint?
Huh?
Get a PowerPoint?
No, I don't have a PowerPoint.
Well, those pie charts are real nice.
I just-
Becky,
Out of the class.
I just have a,
those are much about-
I have a- just a 40-page dissertation that I'd like to run by you. So anyhow, you know how this all started. The peer erected an audit of the Hamilton County Retirement Board. They found some $800,000 in misappropriated or lost funds through fraud. So a bunch of towns got together and started pressuring PARAC and that, and they issued an order, which the Hamilton County Retirement Board is still under. They have to have all kinds of things approved in all kinds of situations. And there's been, and we've made some progress. They have an order in place which can't be removed until there's a public hearing. A second audit is being conducted right now for the years from 2018 to 2021. They established an audit review committee. The former chairman, over 20 years, did not seek reappointment. 2 of the other longtime board members resigned. A $450,000 bank account was uncovered, and it was required to be turned over to Pritt for investment for the employees. They've adopted an overtime policy. They never had an overtime policy. They adopted a procurement policy. They never had a procurement policy. And they adopted a travel policy, which they never have.
And health insurance, they've changed.
And the health insurance they changed. Board members were getting 90% of their health insurance paid for. They changed that down to 75%, I think it is. Health insurance.
GIC.
And the towns have filed through Senator Ash legislation for further reforms. So the next phase we thought would be try to get some of that money back from the insurance policy that the fiduciaries have. And this was kind of prompted by three things. Quincy, Northborough, and Tewksbury all had similar incidences where money was paid out on fraudulent invoices or phishing, and they got some money back. So we thought if we could join together with some other towns, led by Long Meadow and us, that we could each pitch in some money for an attorney to at least send a letter to the insurance company saying, give us money.
Selectman Gold wasn't an attorney. Why do any volunteer services?
Because you said it, because he is attorney. So I'm asking to your approval to use, we figure we could,
Ballpark.
yeah, a couple of $1,000 each time maybe. And I thought we could take it out of selectmen's expense. That was probably another selectmen's expense.
If it's proper, you make it, look, it's legal, it's got to come out law. Let's see what
Okay,
happens.
okay. So
Worst case,
Are they gonna use
worst case, now
ours?
we transfer.
they're gonna use, Long Meadow has the same attorney as us, so they're gonna use our attorney.
Yeah, worst case, we could transfer at the end of the year.
We use our attorney.
Make a motion to approve your request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
And also Don will continue to be the point person.
yes, okay. Now we have the memo to boards and commission regarding the website posting. We can see it, and we can change
You
it.
should have copies.
Dude, we ran this by the clerk, right? Just want to be clear with the town clerk that we're saying the website is the official post,
Right,
not the board out front.
No,
Right.
I've discussed that with her, yes.
And not everybody is tech. Are we sure we don't want to say both places are the official posting? Not everybody is online.
Well, even if this change, which has been voted, when it goes into effect, we will still be posting with the clerk. So most people won't notice any change. It's just that the official place would be the website, which is what, many towns are doing. And we would add some flexibility in terms of when to post, or if someone says at 6 o'clock or 5 of 6 on Thursday that you got to make a change, well, I can do it wherever I am.
I think like you said, we've given it 3 months to get this implemented.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep right now, it'd be nice to be able to, not just the Zoom links, but if I click on the calendar, it automatically opens that Zoom box and boom, I'm in that thing.
Take some training from other departments.
that's why we
Yeah, we
figured
got
3
some time.
months.
Yeah, 3 months.
We
Get
did
a
say-
couple, get a couple students from Green Meadows and have it worked on it.
There we go.
Fine.
We did say in the motion, though, that we would still use the board as the backup.
Yeah.
So just
Oh, yeah.
official would be the-
And that's the board outside.
Nothing really will change, other than what's official and what's not official.
So just now all boards will be required to do post on.
And, I talked with our staff last Wednesday. I talked with them 2 weeks before that about the importance of following all the rules of the open meeting law for posting, as well as keeping minutes, as well as posting the minutes. And everyone is encouraged to use Zoom to broadcast their meetings. We have the capacity to do 2 meetings on Zoom at once. Down in the Melville room, because we have that equipment that we did use, plus that TV over there. And as I said to you last week, the Conservation Commission is pretty far along now. Did another session with Ted today to talk about posting of their recordings. And so one by one, especially if we are able to get someone as a Zoom tech person, I think we'll make some progress there, particularly with the regulatory boards that often bring out a lot of people and do sometimes controversial things.
And John, just to your point about having 2 official spots, according to the Mass General Law here, you can only have 1 official
You'll have
post
one.
posting.
Okay.
But it doesn't preclude you from posting additional spots.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so we're good with that going out to everybody?
yeah, go with that.
Right.
ARPA projects.
Well, you should have an updated list of ARPA projects in your packet. This is what I gave you last week, but we haven't made a decision about premium pay. I'm assuming that the sidewalk along Main Street is not something that you want to spend money on.
Who
I
said
haven't
that?
heard that you want to.
We
Who
discussed
said
it.
that?
Hmm?
Who said we didn't want to spend money on that?
I haven't, Don
There
did.
hasn't been a case. I'm not into sidewalks right now.
Well, I'm saying, I hear from people, they're much more encouraged about that sidewalk than the Allen Street sidewalk. Don, you may say that, look, at this point, maybe it's no sidewalk because we really don't have a good plan,
We don't.
personally.
Well,
I see,
wanna
It's
go
not off-
ahead.
I don't think it's off the table. It's
What?
not in the first tranche of spending here. I don't think.
well, if you're planning on using ARPA towards the fiber project, I don't have a sense, but you may not have a lot left.
Well, I think that Bob's trying to get that community compact grant for that.
I'm gonna, yes,
For the fiber,
That's what he's trying, yeah, with the combined grant with Wilbraham.
community compact grant would be $500,000, of which the town would get half.
That would cover all the whole.
Wilbraham Board of Selectmen don't meet until the 28th, and that's when they're going to make a decision.
Yep.
I've looked at the application. We will have the application in by the deadline, one way or the other, either with Wilbraham or if they choose to go their own way, our own application.
I think people say we'd like to have sidewalks, but I don't think they realize that once you get into their project and we start digging up their front lawns.
well, to be honest, the sidewalk on Main Street would affect a lot fewer people
Not many.
than the one on
Allen
Allen.
Street,
Right.
yes.
The biggest problem there is the bank before Billy, because slopes to the river. The rest of it is pretty, sounds pretty
And
straightforward.
I thought Bob had said that the Casino Gambling Commission would be able to fund some of the studies for the sidewalks.
And I think so too, because that's
They will.
clear travel ways coming down.
And did we,
Just let me clarify. The Gaming Commission has a good deal of money, and they have said point blank, they want to spend it,
right,
but it has to be in the Allen Street, Summers Road
and
corridor.
I thought a few weeks
Oh,
back.
well,
we
excuse me,
approved
back
that.
up. I went to that thing. I'm the one who appeared before the gaming commission.
Yeah.
Main Street, Glendale Road, Allen, and Summers were the 4 roads. Okay, that's the traffic plan, not just Summers and Allen.
So we may be able to push them if we do Main
Right.
Street.
Right. We brought the map and they approved it at the hearing. in Boston.
Well, here's the thought. Their funding round
Yeah.
starts February 1st. So we have some time to think about this. And, or either think about it and apply for construction money or fund design
Mhm.
and be ready to ask for construction money.
Right, wasn't there 2 rounds? Didn't we agree to look into funding the design?
Well,
Like a month or
it's
so ago.
annual. I think Bob has worked with Mary on this.
Yeah.
Is she still there?
She is.
And it's an annual thing. And heck, the last couple of years, they've been begging us, please apply.
They have
Right,
an
you know.
abundance of money and they're frankly
So
concerned.
many people
But the
betting on
legislature's
red and the
gonna see it
money's
and
flowing
take it
back to us.
So
All right, so
I think the choices are go ahead with design now and be ready to ask for a construction grant in February, which she told me we would get. Or wait until February and ask for money for design and then do construction the following February. The way the process is, the Gaming Commission spends the fall deciding,
well, why don't we do design? We can
Right.
see where we are and how much it's gonna cost.
all right, I'll get an RFP out for design.
And if it's feasible
That's the whole
and
thing.
everything else.
Right.
you know.
I'll get an RFP out for design.
When Bob and I walked the other corner, we saw the biggest problem with the wetlands across
Yeah.
from
Yes.
Snappy.
Yeah.
know.
That's-
And then how are you crossing that intersection?
That's right.
That's the
There's a lot
thing.
of tough intersections.
So if you go on the west side of Allen Street, you have to cross back Allen Street to get to the senior center.
Also, I mean,
Moving
along the
targets.
way there, you've got a drop off and really not a lot of right of way.
Sounds like something an engineer would be able to tell us.
Exactly.
So we figure out, let's do sidewalks, let's do study, right?
Yeah.
We'll do the tasers for now, the generator.
We're gonna need a few extra bucks for upgrades at the pump house. For Scannick Valley Water District.
Right. You waiting for quotes on that?
Waiting for quotes.
Okay, so that's good, that's.
Are you, you're anticipating, you know, but low.
Are you
five
good with
figures?
the,
Low 5 figures?
No, seriously, I don't know.
What do you say?
12.
Yeah.
That's what I
12.
mean, you know, 10, 12, 15,
Yeah.
something like that.
12 to 15? Are you good with the regional school?
No,
I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah,
That
what is the
donation to
capital?
their capital committee, or is this the turf?
Or is this the other thing that they're looking for was the server, the network switches?
this is the network switches,
I thought that was lower than that.
300,000.
This is for the network
This is-
switches,
this is
and
the
Aaron
network
asked for 60,000.
I'm not interested until they settle their issues with the finance committee in Wilbraham and what they're gonna spend money on.
We can add a police cruiser here if you want
And they
to.
also have money in E&D, and they also have that maintenance money.
I think somebody mentioned community preservation at one point. I don't
So
know.
maybe
That's a
they
big one,
can,
I mean.
Find it somewhere.
maybe they can dig behind the couches and find some.
You want to move the police cruiser out of the ATM war?
I don't wanna move the police cruiser out of there, although we'll pay for it. I wanna see, I wanna get a bottom line where we are on the budget. I mean, I know it's rough, but at least we could have some place to look and see if we're,
See if we can.
if we're 300% over last year, that might be a problem.
Right, but I'm not, to me, I don't like taking the cruiser out of there because it is part of doing business and the constant moving in and out.
Yeah, yeah.
Gives people the wrong idea
Yeah.
of what you need to run it. We need one car a year.
Right.
Fine. Then the extra one every, Don, it's been 2 or
Right.
3 years or something.
Yeah, then if we.
It's not a capital expense, it's an operating expense.
Right.
Yeah,
The other thing, if we get to this plan here, we have 2 new cars that came in.
Yeah.
This would be the 3rd new car.
Right.
3 out of 4 cars be new. And I mentioned to Bob before, I think we need to look harder at our 2 cars that are not patrol vehicles. We talked about it before, but I don't know they really need to be top of the line Tahoes. And Bob, you've seen other towns, the car that goes to court, I understand maybe you're not gonna give them a sitter. But you can get a decent car
Yeah.
that's gonna be able to go back and forth to court, that does not need to be a $50,000 Tahoe
Correct.
like the other cars.
Right.
Then the other thing would be, the green community thing, we would get credit if you got them, I hate to say it, electric car.
Right.
Our town would get points towards other grants, if you will.
Or a hybrid. even
A hybrid,
car.
and the Chiefs car could be that as well, and now we have more points, which gets us more
when we
grant.
get the free plug-in at the.
And you'd also
Senior
get the
center.
thing, right, no, seriously, they put that
We'll
in,
put
they're
it on the
done.
station.
If
Right.
the board would like to explore green communities, I've done that in 3 towns and it really works well.
But then the other thing
Something we
Dad
put down
mentioned,
Some more grant money.
and Don, I don't know if you saw this, Dad had mentioned that upgrading the Tahoe that we got that was not a patrol car to a patrol car was only $10,000.
Yeah.
And then you have your 4th brand new patrol car.
So
It's something to think about,
I have a question too about Tahoes versus the Fords that they were getting.
right,
They can get the Fords now, so they're gonna get a couple of those from what I remember.
right.
The Tahoes were more expensive,
Right,
they required more maintenance, they're a heavier vehicle, they're using more gas money. Why are we spending the money on a higher vehicle, like you were saying,
Mhm.
and, going that route, when they were saying, oh, well, the longevity, they get 5 years or whatever out of it. But aren't we still turning them over when certain mileage hits
Yeah, we
anyway?
are.
Well, so I wonder about the maintenance part, because most of the maintenance is covered in your first, so
Yeah, that's-
First 2
that
years.
part is, I think, a little suspect on that number.
Right, but my point is, we're still turning them in 100,000 miles. Are they doing 100,000 miles in 4 years or 5 years? That's the question I have. If it's still only going 4 years, we're still training them out. What's the point of it having that extra year of longevity?
You're probably more of a car guy than I am, but I'm gonna go back to Don, the type of thing where the salesman comes in And you're a pharmaceutical guy, and he said, hey, Tylenol is the best, I'm pushing it now. 3 years later, he comes back, that stuff I told you about Tylenol? No, Advil was better. And these are, no, seriously,
Yeah.
it's Ford now, then it'll be Chevy, then it'll be
Go
Ford.
back to Dodge.
It's a cycle. You've seen it. Bob, you've probably seen it.
Yeah, they went
How
to
many
Dodge
times,
for a
how many
while.
different chiefs have told you,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
we love these cars?
And, the same experience with usually fire chiefs too. They lock themselves into one brand.
Mhm,
So,
right.
So we're gonna hold off on that.
in the course of all this.
On the
I have-
cruiser, okay, and
Digress.
the excavator, we're gonna go forward.
And
You
Mark,
get that now, it
I
saves
talked to
money.
Mark today. He is updating his culvert, paving, drainage, and culvert plan. What you have, what I gave you, he gave to me, he said is just, it's the big picture. He said, I'm gonna prioritize work that we're doing. Also, I'm gonna report to you tonight that we're gonna be submitting a small bridge grant program for South Bridge, for South Road Bridge. So, but he's going to give us something that is not as comprehensive as that chart that he gave us earlier. And it'll give us, I guess, some projects that we can put into here if we decide.
Well, we had the money, and we had money left over from chapter 90 last year.
Yeah.
Then there was that MMA thing with Don, they were gonna kick an extra 100 million into it.
Yeah.
So with that, whatever,
They are.
I'm just
It's
saying,
going to happen.
and with everybody working, are we almost talking about more work than actually we can handle? And if you're gonna give them some ARPA money on top of it, it's almost like driving through New York where you got the street torn up on every corner.
Well,
Yeah, right.
I think we could just keep in mind that the ARPA funds that we have been given in 21 and which will be coming in June 22, the second tranche comes in June 22, have to be either spent or contracted, committed by December 31st of 2024 calendar year.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of time to spend these funds.
Well, I'd like to invite Mark in for his construction overview, Don, early April. We gotta get a sense of where we're going here. Because we need to get out there. Pretty much everybody's gonna be out going to Lane, to Palmer, getting all these projects out there. We may not have, that's why one project didn't get done last year. Because they couldn't come and get work.
Do it, yeah.
So, if he's available next week, I'd like to see his construction schedule for 22, 23. Donnie, agree? or-
Yeah, that's fine.
We
I'll
got,
put them on.
yeah, please, thank you.
Selectmen's reports.
We had strategic planning last week, just keep going through the grind, trying to narrow down our vision, mission, and community surveys, which is a lot of data in those surveys.
Meetings coming up, early.
Conservation Commission met on the solar project on Glendale Road. There's about 50 residents attended.
Some on Zoom.
They just some on Zoom too. They just discussed what the delineation would be. I have to say Judy Brewer was excellent in her discussion, explained to me what the steps were and like that. I think everyone went away pretty happy with the fact that, the process that's going to be involved. So,
I have to say, and I know Ted's pretty sharp, but Judy deserves a lot of credit.
yeah,
She was really on top of her game.
yeah, she was.
Wow, we're lucky. She decided not to retire.
Just out of curiosity, did they say if that project had been grandfathered in? Because weren't they,
They keep saying that they have a
National Grid.
line, they have a line to Wilbraham substation.
okay.
But
Yeah, 'cause I remember the conversation before with National Grid was they were unsure about the grid.
Bob and I
Taking
both
any
heard
more,
the same
yeah.
thing, that they were on a bit of a hiatus, a
Yeah.
bit of a, and that's why I was surprised to hear that they could, oh, no, we're not under the moratorium, like, really?
well, yeah, unless there's figures that take 3 years to build the thing anyhow, 3 years down the
Will
road.
be updated by then.
Well, actually, that leads into one thing. I do have a report on the project at the landfill. We will be getting our first payment next month for the lease because we hit our 2-year milestone, even though they have to construct it.
Oh, yeah.
We do get payments for the lease and prorated for this fiscal year, and then the full payment for next fiscal year in July. And I did mention to Mark, he needs to coordinate with Steve from Amoresco on construction, et cetera. I know Bob is working on getting the lease agreement for the tower to them, and then checking with Rose to make sure that the conservation deed has been recorded.
Town administrator's report.
Okay, we've already talked about the Mass Municipal Managers Association and ARPA in Rentham. We've already discussed the video conferencing assistance. We'll continue to work on that. A project for the state budget earmark. We had mentioned a few things. I did talk with the library director about replacement of the windows here. And she is going to bring some more information. I also talked to Wendell, and he estimates that because these windows are special and historic, to replace them will be about $1,500 per window. Now, we're going to get a final number. I've already communicated with Senator Lesser's staff person that we're going to send in a request for the windows. They want some paperwork and some estimates, and they'll put it in as an earmark, and we'll see how it goes. Now, state statute permits towns to encourage key employees in the financial side to become certified. If you adopt state enabling legislation, a certified employee would be given a bonus of $1,000 every year. The employees who can be eligible for this, by the way, the assessors are the ones who contacted me and said that the town has not accepted this, and they'd like to see a warrant article which would, if voted, allow the town to pay a bonus, certainly to the chief assessor of $1,000 because she is certified. In order to be certified, you've got to go to a training for 2 years minimum. Usually they go to 2 to 3 years of training, and you have to take an exam. And it's not a simple thing. And so I would say that, I think if we put this on the warrant, I think we can make a good case that the town wants to encourage people to continue their education and training.
Who else? Who are the other certifications? There's not many, is there?
No, I think it's treasurer, I
Treasurer.
believe, and I think it's the town clerk
And
too.
the treasurer's always been opposed to this. Our treasurer.
Oh,
Right? Doug opposed to this.
okay.
This is a one-time, $1,000?
No, it's not one time, it's
Every
a,
year.
I haven't talked with him about it. I did obviously talk with the assessors about it because they brought it up, so.
I did ask, I talked to him also, I asked why we wouldn't just, to be honest, if it's like a growth in their grade or step, if you will, and why would they just increase their salary? But apparently, like you said, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
To
It's a
encourage.
certification level,
Yeah.
more letters after the name.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it helps them in court cases, because when they go and represent the town in the,
Yes,
what is it, what are they, ATV?
Appellate tax board.
appellate tax board.
They go.
Yeah.
And you have more credibility as well.
Yeah, and it's a bonus. It doesn't go into the base, frankly.
That's true.
So when you do a percent increase, you're not doing a percent increase on
And
that.
to make the point, we've actually won the vast majority of our cases where they know. Yeah, so,
So put it on the warrant, put it on the warrant.
perfect. I mean,
No,
it's
or
an
put it on
article
the warrant.
sponsored by the
Yeah,
assessors,
right.
it's courtesy to them to put it on.
Sure.
Cable TV.
Cable TV, do you want to bring this guy that sent
Sure.
a proposal? You want to bring him into a meeting? He
Yeah.
can just talk to you
Yeah.
basically about, okay.
Anybody that can wring money out of cable TV would be happy.
This guy's a hardball player, let me tell you. I've actually,
You gotta get those rates down.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
we did have our first meeting on the 17th for a shared conservation agent. This would be with Munson and Long Meadow. Capital Planning Committee met on the 15th. They are ready with a long-term 20-year vehicle replacement plan, just about ready. And we'll bring that to the selectmen for your review and endorsement. Small bridge program I just mentioned, we're going to apply by April 1st for South Bridge, for South Road. And I just mentioned to you that there's a community compact grant available for up to $250,000 to launch the first phase of a fiber optic program. Since it is the case that many grant applications are stronger or considered stronger if you have a cooperative arrangement with another community. I called the town administrator in Wilbraham. He said he would bring it to the Board of Selectmen there on the 28th, and we may do a joint application. If not, we'll do our own application and look for $250,000. And then the East Main Street Bridge, I mentioned that to you last time. We're going to take that to District 2 DOT and see if we can get them to fund it.
Can you forward a copy of that report? You say you have a report from the consultant. I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also the town calendar. We had a long talk today with Beren. And he seems to think that the best way to do that, an electronic calendar, is to establish a new email address where a department head who wants to have some event on the town calendar simply emails it to that address. And the person who sets up the calendar, who's going to manage the calendar, in this case it's Pam, opens the email, sees the dates that other departments want, puts it on the town calendar, and everyone will have access to it.
Okay. We're talking meeting rooms, not town calendar, per se.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
this is some, Pam has done a good job of like putting it out there, but, so I just think this is really no more than a Google calendar. We just can't use Google because everyone's using Office 365.
Right.
I really,
it's the same thing, yeah. It
you
is.
know, I don't understand.
Why can't we just use the town calendar as is now on the website?
So let's, there are other things, well, that would give everybody rights then, and that would be expanding the rights to the county.
We don't have internal meetings posted on the website.
I think if individual departments can post on the calendar, it still transfers over to the main calendar, isn't it?
It could be, I mean, that would be, you may also be right that they have the rights to put in their department, it goes on the main one.
Right, or everybody can still send it to Pam, she's got the master calendar,
Yeah.
and just update the calendar on the website, right? That would be
Right,
the
again,
simplest
I
thing to
think-
do, right?
My concern is always that, you've got two people. I mean, for example, we've had two public
Right.
meetings. And although we talk about having a Zoom meeting downstairs, it's not available for those who come in a wheelchair and can't get downstairs. I get that it's on Zoom and they can participate in that way, but our public meetings should be accessible to everyone.
What happens when there's two meetings, though, is the question.
Well, somebody goes to the Melville room.
And so if we do it that way, I mean, people would still send you, I mean, you've been doing good, sending the calendars out to everybody, updating it and filling it back in. Why can't we just?
Well,
use
because the
website
problem
then?
is that if it's sent out as a document, it's okay. Now Park and Rec, oh, I'll add my thing, sends it back to Pam. Planning sends theirs back in. They don't see the same document anymore. Now it's lost. If it's an online thing, Pam manages, everybody's updating a fluid document. That's what I was trying to work with. I don't know, it had to be Barim. It seemed like it's a factor. It's a feature of both, as Craig said, the online calendar
Yeah.
or Office 365.
Well, he was going to create a specific email address where if I have an event and I want it posted on the electronic calendar, I send an email to that particular account.
But to John's point, that's not gonna work because Board A is not gonna see Board B's email to the email address.
I think he's saying it's gonna update that calendar, they can look at it, but then you're back to, I think, Craig's point, then why not just make it the one town calendar that's on the web?
It's our official posting spot now, why not
Right,
use the calendar as the
Yeah.
official calendar?
I think that's more, maybe upgrading the memo you just put out there.
I mean, I like Pam,
Like
but she's gonna
saying,
be the one updating it. So-
Library wants yoga in the, in this room from 4 to 8 on Thursdays. They create an event and boom, it shows up on the town calendar. Boom.
First come, first served.
Well,
Well-
that's the other thing that, sometimes rooms have to be managed.
Right.
Ellen, can you do yoga upstairs so somebody else can meet here? We try to make the best use of the space that
Right.
we have.
The Lily municipal meetings have priority over the yoga,
Of
over the
course.
theater guild, over the scouts. Do we have scouts anymore?
No.
No. Not girls.
We'll continue reviewing this.
Where's our attorney?
He's available by phone, and I'll give you that number. He thought the meeting was tomorrow night. So,
See if he had access to the calendar, he would know.
So how do we call
Bob or any of us can just dial him in and we can put him on speaker.
him? He can't do
And then
Zoom?
he'll-
You gotta be able to do Zoom.
Pay him $17,000 an hour.
Hang on, so the purpose of this, he's gonna give us an update?
Yeah.
Is it a critical update? Put him on for next week. I'd rather have him here, 'cause I mean, I like the input.
Just tell him to do him next
It's gonna be the
week.
same rate whether we talk on the phone or first next week.
Remind him at the
Maybe he'll
28th.
know more then.
He's gonna charge us standby pay.
No.
Probably,
He's gonna
The 28th is a Monday.
No standby pay.
we'll let you know the time.
Unless it's critical. Is it
I
critical?
doubt it.
Should we find out if it's critical first? Or was this
Bob, you
Oh,
don't think
I
it's-
hear you. I hear you.
before we just, before we
Yeah,
adjourn?
I hear you.
Emailing him, texting him,
I guess I should
Can we
just
get
call.
a fax
him.
downstairs, maybe?
call him up.
I think I still got the telex at the office.
John, you still got your Morse code? John, you still got
Oh,
Morse
that,
code?
John, thank you. I was a little insulted.
Still got Morse code?
And radio?
Do your CW?
Mark Casey used to do the ham radio.
Yeah.
So, if
Yeah,
you could
good
check with, Bob, if you could check with Carol or Doug, I think, as Don said, we'd like a little recap
Yeah,
of
just to see
where we
are.
stand on the,
Budget.
Don, do you think there's a possibility the retirement number will come down in this fiscal year or no? I mean, would they apply a long process?
Don, what was the other account you said that got found recently, that there was
Oh,
somebody?
no, back in, they had told they had told the Perrick had cited them for having money in accounts where they were paying service fees.
Oh, right,
They're getting all kind of interest, right? So they said they'll take care of those accounts.
right.
But then when the audit committee went in, they found $450,000 account that they were still paying service fees on at the People's Bank, and they said,
Nice.
get rid of it, give it to print.
My,
Anyway, you didn't mention the $289,000 in contracts for which they don't have
Yeah,
any written contracts and no backup
No
and no information as to what was accomplished.
So did you get a hold of him? What's he doing?
well, I'm waiting to do that. I did speak with Jean Broderick.
So this will be executive session anyway, so should I close the meeting?
Yeah,
Well,
well,
there's
we're
not
not gonna
gonna
go
be- we need a
with the motion to adjourn, right?
I spoke with Jean, she sent me a couple of quotes. She still has another quote coming for the work. She.
Motion to go into executive session. This would be an executive session with Timmy.
If he's around.
Or we-
Yeah, I don't know, I'm waiting to,
Or we'll just adjourn, okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Done.
Decided.